He made me feel a little uneasy, and I couldn't tell you why. Norman Boudreau, friend of Arthur Lee Allen, speaking about Donald Lee Cheney in the 2007 documentary film, His Name Was Arthur Lee Allen. Hello, my name is Drew Beeson, author of the book Sighting In on the Zodiac Killer, and welcome to my first video on Subscribestar. Thank you all for coming to my channel and subscribing. This video, of course, is going to focus in on my number one suspect, Zodiac Killer, Donald Lee Cheney. Of course, that hatchet was a piece of Don Cheney's handiwork, making that beautiful leather sheath for that hatchet. It was actually Don Cheney's Boy Scout hatchet, which is very interesting. And of course, we know that none other than Tim Holt visited the Boy Scouts at Don Cheney's high school while he was living in Bakersfield, California. And if you watch my YouTube channel regularly, you'll know all about the Zodiac Killer and the Tim Holt connection. And that's just one of the many connections you can find with Don Cheney in Bakersfield, California. But of course, this is going to be a deep dive into my work on Donald Lee Cheney being the Zodiac Killer. Of course, that is my theory. That is in my book, Sighting In on the Zodiac Killer. It's all focusing on how Donald Lee Cheney was able to fool everybody in this case when he brought forward his friend Arthur Lee Allen in July of 1971, who later became the top suspect in the Zodiac Killer crimes. How did he do that? Well, it was a masterwork by Don Cheney, how he would manage to pull this entire thing off, but he was successful. Don Cheney died in 2009 with no one ever really knowing the truth. This channel is going to be taking the deepest dives into showing you that he was none other than the creator of what we call the Zodiac persona. With help from his friend Arthur Lee Allen, he was able to not only write the letters and ciphers related to the Zodiac Killer, he also committed the crimes. How did he do this? Well, one way was that he was highly intelligent, very cunning, and very, very astute in many different skills, including leather work, which he learned from his grandfather on his mother's side. Also, Cheney was highly adept as a big game hunter, often going on long hunts into the woods for many days and cooking his own meals. He was also the most adept at mathematics. Don Cheney, of course, was trained as a mechanical engineer, attending Cal Poly Pomona in the early 1960s. It was while at Cal Poly Pomona that Don Cheney met Ron Allen, Arthur Lee Allen's younger brother. Ron Allen would serve as Don Cheney's best man when he got married to his wife Anne in 1962 in Pomona. Now, with some of that background out of the way, let me explain how I came across these incredible new finds regarding the Zodiac Killer and my suspect, Donald Lee Cheney. I received an email from a guy that I'll just call Tony D. I won't say Tony's complete last name until he wants to come forward. But Tony wrote me this email a few weeks ago, and it started like this. First, let me introduce myself. I am not an expert on the facts of this case, having just started exploring in the last few months. What I do bring to this case is a very high IQ. I was drafted into the Army, and I was especially adept at logical thinking. I will preface my remarks by alluding to Spencer Tracy's character and judgment at Nuremberg. Paraphrasing, to be logical does not mean you're right. However, logic is a good place to start. I have never believed the Zodiac was one person. I don't believe that the accepted murders were done by one person. I think they were done by 2 or even 3 persons. I am intrigued by the connections you have found between Allen, Cheney, and Avery. It would explain the "your secret friend" correspondence. A deeper look into Avery is needed. Maybe phone records, travel, etc. of both Avery and Cheney. What you have found is way past a coincidence. I think it is a logical conclusion that Cheney, Lee Allen were working together. Chaney is the dominant partner and Alan is the submissive. Chaney doing most of the work on the letters and Alan delivering them in San Francisco. The first 2 killing episodes could be explained as execution style, thrill killings by Chaney as an escalation of his thrill of hunting. What is left after big game but the most dangerous animal of all? I can also imagine Chaney sending Alan out to commit murder as part of the game. Chaney making the costume and Alan choosing the method. Alan loved cutting things up. I always suspected Alan of the Lake murders. He said he was going there that day and came home covered in blood. His alibi excuse does not hold up. And then after that, Tony goes in to explain why Alan couldn't be the killer at Lake Berryessa because of Alan. It was a right-handed killing. Alan was really dominant left-handed, even though he said he was ambidextrous. But after reading that by Tony, he thinks of it definitely like I do. And then we got into this deeper, and Tony was really getting into some of these clues hidden in the Zodiac ciphers, specifically the misspelled words in the Zodiac ciphers. And then Tony sent me this next email after that one. He says, I think you believe, as I do, that the spelling mistakes in the Zodiac letters are not mistakes at all. They are clues or inside jokes. One of the letters is signed a friend with a line over the end. The E and the N don't look much like E and N. The line over N tells me to turn them over. The word you get is PB1. He says PB1 is a type of mechanical engineering diagram. What are the chances that Don Chaney knew about or worked with PB1 diagrams? Pretty high, I'll bet. Tony D. So after that, I'm synced in with Tony at this point. He is my crowdsourced partner in putting together more discoveries about the Zodiac. So my last upload to YouTube, I talked about the word werv. That I believe Tony pointed this one out to me first, and the word werv comes out of the Solve 340 cipher by Dave Ranchak, Sam Blake, and Jarl Van Eck. And then you see the word right there, werv, W-O-R-V. And we found out that this was a flange mount rotary gear pump, werv, W-O-R-V. So that's definitely something that a mechanical engineer that specialized in pipe stress would have known about. This part's been around for a long time, so there you have it. There's a picture there of a werv. So we took it further. Tony kept sending more of the misspelled words from the Zodiac letters and ciphers, and we began to explore these different words. And one that he gave me, I found out, came from the computer program Fortran. And after that, Tony was off to the races and trying to find more words that were connected to the computer program Fortran. So now you see where I got the inspiration for the title of this video, Fiddle and Fart in Fortran. So another one of the words other than werv that obviously you just saw was a mechanical part, and of course Don Chaney was a mechanical engineer, was another word that came from the decoded 340 cipher, and that is the word VNow. You see that on the second to the last sentence. And of course we found out that VNow is a command in the computer program Fortran. And I found a definition of the command Fortran from this book here. It's called the Joint Highway Research Project. This book came out in 1962. And it was just for a traffic light project, but they were utilizing Fortran to program the traffic lights or something like that. But it shows you on one of the pages here, and this is the appendix, it says Dictionary of Fortran Variables, and it says variable name on the left. And then when you move down to VNow, you'll see that here, and that stands for Velocity of Current Vehicle, and then it also has a little symbol by it. So this is definitely, if Don Chaney knew Fortran, and I guarantee you he did from attending Cal Poly Pomona in the early 60s, and maybe even learned it when he was in the Air Force in the late 50s, but there to get it now, because there it is, the VNow from the 340 cipher, but that is a Fortran variable, as they call it, and you just saw what that meant. So there is another Fortran word coming up. And then we are also checking words against this I was given a long time ago called the Zodiac Lexicon, where you can look up different words that the Zodiac misspelled. And they have one in here where the Zodiac said the word episode. He's trying to say the word episode, but he spelled it E-P-A-S-O-D-E. Of course, the Zodiac liked to misspell different words that would still sound the same phonetically. If you said it out loud or even thought to yourself, it's still going to come off the same phonetically, but like to spell it differently. And isn't that odd that that's one of the things that Arthur Lee Allen liked to do? And it shows up in the Zodiac correspondence. But anyway, look at this. Episode. EPASODE. EPAS in Fortran stands for Electronic Patent Assignment System. And then ODE is Ordinary Differential Equation. So in just that one oddly spelled word by the Zodiac, you get two different Fortran definition words between EPAS and ODE. So this was just one of many others, and I'm actually going to have to do a part 2 of this because there's so many more that we found, but I wanted to hit some of the really striking examples like this episode, EPASODE, and we just kept finding more and more. And sticking with the Fortran theme, Tony also brought up the correlation between the Zodiac's 13-hole punch card that I'm showing on the screen. Now, if you look at that, the holes punched in it on the right-hand side, there's 13 holes. You have 10 on top and 3 on the second row. And one odd thing I've always seen pointed out about this is the Zodiac could have easily put more of the punch holes on that second line, but chose to do 10 on top and 3 more. So Tony pointed out that this is just like an early computer punch card that you'd feed through the computer and it'd give you a readout. And one of the programs that did this quite a bit was none other than Fortran. And obviously when you flip this card upside down, it would give you different messages. This one says, P.S. Thorough reports, city police, pig cops are closing in on me. FK, I'm crack proof. What is the price tag now? And then you see number 13 and it has another message the other way. But here is a picture of an early Fortran card that has the punch holes in it. So this is another thing that's pointing either, maybe not directly to Fortran, but early computing. So it's obvious to at least Tony and myself that the Zodiac was heavily influenced by computers and specifically Fortran. And if you were learning things like mechanical engineering in the early 60s and doing it for a living in the mid 60s up until through the 70s like Don Chaney did, you would have been familiar with these different Fortran commands because Fortran was used in pipe stress analysis that Don Chaney did and just earlier mechanical engineering applications in general. So moving on, and now we'll do some more of the Fortran stuff on the next video, but Tony also pointed out that there's many military words and specifically Air Force terms that come up in the Zodiac correspondences with the misspelled letters. Of course, there's a picture of Don Chaney in his flight suit from 1957 when he was at Harlingen Air Force Base and learning how to be an Air Force navigator. So Tony looked into a lot of these different phrases that would pertain to someone that had been in the military, and this is what he came up with. So we'll show you here where the Zodiac wrote this letter, and he uses the phrase damn, D-A-M-X-O, and it looks a little bit like an @ symbol, but it looks like it says damn X-O. Well, Tony being a Vietnam veteran, he was a combat medic in Vietnam, and we also went and checked the Zodiac lexicon where it translated on the Zodiac lexicon sheet, which I did not create. I got this from someone else that had put this together. Actually, we're going to add some words to this and revamp it a little bit, but you'll see here where it says damn XO, and they just put as the definition is that Zodiac was just saying damn, but he doesn't. He says damn and XO. Well, being in the military, Tony immediately thought that XO is referring to a commanding officer, because that's how they referred to him, and it says damn XO. So it was like the Zodiac is mad at possibly a commanding officer. So Tony asked me, did I know if Don Chaney got kicked out of the Air Force? And my answer is, I don't know. All I know is that he was in that 2-year program at Harlingen, and the pass-on rate there is 96%. And Chaney did not continue with it. He was in that minority of the 4%. So something very likely could have gone on there where he was maybe got into it with a commanding officer, and that's where you get the phrase damn XO from in the Zodiac correspondence. And it could be here. It says in that line is when I hung up the phone, the damn XO he's talking about in his letter. Of course, he's talking about the telephone that rang when the Zodiac made a phone call after one of the attacks, but we think it's another hidden clue. And then you have more coming out from the military stuff. And this is what Tony sent. He put CID, where the Zodiac refers to a kid, KID, but the Zodiac says CID. And that stands for a Criminal Investigation Division, which is a military term. And then also he said, here you see where he's going on about, was Cheney charged with something in the Air Force by his executive officer, being the XO. He said, I know I was asked to go to officers training school, but I would have to commit to 3 years. I was drafted, which is 2 years. Wouldn't the Air Force want a pilot they trained to commit to more than 2 years? Answer to that, Tony, is absolutely yes. That's why it had a 96% pass rate to go on further into the Air Force. And we know Don Cheney did not continue with the Air Force. He left the Air Force after only 2 years, came back to Bakersfield for a little while, and then he went to Pomona, where he attended Cal Poly Pomona. There you see the word from the Zodiac letter where he says, but there is even more glory in killing a cop than a kid, with that CID spelling. So we're finding a lot of these clues, and I think that Don was just that clever to put clues in there that would allude to something else, and his identity as who he was, what he did for a living, or what he knew the most, which was mechanical engineering, pipe stress analyst, and knowing the computer program Fortran. And it's just obvious to us that these are there. And I asked Tony how convinced he was that it was not only Don Cheney was the Zodiac, but that he hid these clues, and he said 100%. And it's always good to do crowdsourcing with a guy like that is super smart in finding these clues. So more the merrier. I mean, if anyone ever sees any other clues like that, please email them to me. And I want to end this inaugural episode by a quote from Norma Gordon, who was the wife of Don Cheney's good friend Bob Gordon. And she said, Don Cheney was obsessed with hunting. And that really struck me when she said that, like obsessed. This is what he loved to do. He was obsessed with hunting animals. Maybe he just got bored of hunting animals and wanted to start hunting humans, just like The Most Dangerous Game. Norma Gordon's son, Robbie, was actually the ring bearer in Don Cheney's 1962 wedding in Pomona, California. So she remembered that about Don.